Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So I'm grateful to be here with all of you today. Maybe you can bring this in the center so that you can also feel as if they're facing me rather than.
You unmute.
No, can you not take the audio from there? Because from where the video is coming, audio from there will be better synced.
Yes.
See, the two come from different devices, it doesn't sync properly.
Just cross check.
So, wonderful to be with all of you today. And I'll speak based on the Bhagavad-Gita. We'll discuss some key themes from the Bhagavad-Gita broadly about how spirituality empowers us. So let's do it based on this particular verse. This is 6.25. So we can recite it once. Can you? It's fair enough. Sure. How long is it on? Yes.
We'll collect the
Waste.
Okay. So Shanai, let's recite this together. Or rather, I'll tell the meaning once and we'll recite it. Shanai Uparamed. So gradually, slowly, step by step. Shanai, slowly. Okay, this is not visible to all of you.
Yeah, it's visible.
Uparamed is to slow down, to silence, to stop. Shanai Uparamed. Buddhi is intelligence. Dhruti Gruhitaya. Intelligence sustained by conviction. Dhruti is conviction. Gruhitaya, held up by. Buddhya Dhruti Gruhitaya. Then what? Atma Samstham. Atma Samstham is situated. Manah Krutva. The mind becomes situated at the spiritual level, in the soul. Atma Samstham Manah Krutva. Nakinchit. Nakinchit is not at all. Apichintayet. Don't dwell on anything else. Don't get distracted. Nakinchit apichintayet. So let's recite this once together. Shanai Uparamed. Buddhya Dhruti Gruhitaya. Together. Shanai Uparamed. Buddhya Dhruti Gruhitaya. Atma Samstham Manah Krutva. Nakinchit apichintayet. Thank you. So, I'll talk about, this will be a 3-part series, that when we practice spirituality, often the question may come up, what does spirituality actually offer us? And can it be understood in more tangible terms? Ultimately, we can say that by spiritual practice, we will go back to Krishna. And that is true, undoubtedly, and that's a very important point. So, but we'll try to look at it in a more tangible terms. So 3 ways spirituality empowers us. So I talk about in our inner world, there is the soul, there is the intelligence, and there is the mind. Most of the benefits of spirituality are in the inner world. Those inner world benefits manifest also as outside. So, okay. Soul, intelligence, and mind. So, this is a 3-part series I'll be discussing. What does spirituality give us? For the intelligence, we get drishti. Drishti is vision. And for the soul, what do we get? We get tushti. Tushti is satisfaction. Hmm? And for the mana, what do we get? Shanti. That is pacification. The mind doesn't just become peaceful, it becomes pacified. So these three, the intelligence gets vision, the soul gets nutrition, satisfaction, nourishment, and the mind gets pacification, it becomes peaceful. So the three classes I'll be taking will be, today I'll speak on how spirituality provides vision for our mind, for our intelligence. Tomorrow I'll talk about how it provides satisfaction for the soul, and day after tomorrow I'll talk about how it provides pacification for the mind. Now, while this is the broad map, some points will overlap, but overall this is the direction we will go. So let's start with discussing the intelligence. Now, broadly, the function of intelligence, it has many different functions, but with respect to spiritual growth, I'll focus on three things. Intelligence helps us to get rid of illusions. There are many illusions inside us, there are many misconceptions inside us. So intelligence helps us to get rid of illusions. So RID is the acronym I'm going to discuss. Intelligence helps us to understand what is real. Intelligence helps us to understand what is important. And thirdly, intelligence helps us to understand what is doable. So what is real, what is important, and what is doable. So let's look at each of these one by one now. So we say tamasoma jyotirgama, asatoma sadgamaya. So all these things, asatoma sadgamaya, that go from that which is unreal to the real. So who will help us to go there? It is ultimately Krishna. But how does Krishna help us? Krishna helps us through our intelligence. You know, the Gita itself is both historical and universal. Historical means it describes incidents that happened at a particular time. So at a particular time in history, Arjuna was the... Okay.
I thought it is number.
No, that's fine. Arjuna, you can say it. So Arjuna was on a chariot and Krishna was the charioteer. So the historical reality is Krishna was his charioteer. Now for us, we are also in the body which is like a chariot. And in the chariot body metaphor that is given in the Upanishads, our intelligence is our charioteer. So the whole process of the Bhagavad-Gita is to ensure that our intelligence becomes guided by Krishna. So in that sense, what happened to Arjuna in the Bhagavad-Gita is what can happen to each one of us. So that idea that our intelligence can be empowered by Krishna. So what does the intelligence do? The intelligence gets the vision, okay, to see the reality beyond the illusion. To see, okay, among the many things that are important, what are the most important? What are less important? And among the many things that are important, I may not be able to do everything right now. So what is doable for me? So let's look at each of these. What is real and what is not real? So what is the nature of reality? The Gita explains that those who are wise, they are able to see the nature of reality as in 2.14 is 2.16 is described. Let's quickly recite this verse. Nasato vidyate bhavo,
Nasato vidyate bhavo,
na bhavo vidyate sataha,
na bhavo vidyate satah,
ubhayorapi drushtontas,
ubhayorapi drishtontas,
tvanayos tattvadarshibhi.
tattvadarshibhi.
So the idea is that there are two realities. There is one which which is visible to us, but that doesn't last for very long. That is fleeting. And another reality which is enduring, which is not so easily visible for us. So there is asata and sata. So these two realities, so they be able to perceive what is real. So the capacity to perceive reality, that comes from the buddhi. So the vision of the buddhi is to see what is real. This is 2.16. Now, how do we know? Is there a logical way to try to establish that there is some spiritual reality, there is something that lasts forever? Or is it just a religious belief? So, one simple and logical way to understand this is to consider we existing in nature. Now, if we consider in nature, everything is temporary. Our clothes are temporary, the trees around us are temporary, the mountains are temporary, even the earth and the sun, everything is temporary. Now, this is not necessarily from a scriptural perspective, even from the perspective of science. Nothing exists forever. So it's temporary. And yet, we all have a deep longing to live on and on, to live forever. If we were just products of our environment, then why would we have this longing to live forever? Normally, if a child says to a mother, "Mummy, I want ice cream," maybe the child has eaten some ice cream, has heard about ice cream, and then they "I want ice cream." But if, say, the child is born in some remote tribe in Africa, where they never heard of ice cream, and the child says, "Mother, Mummy, I want ice cream." Where did you hear about ice cream? If there is nothing in the environment to trigger that desire, then where does the desire come from? So for all of us, there is nothing in the environment to give us any thought that that even immortality could be a possibility. And yet immortality, the longing for immortality, is one of the deepest desires. So where does it come from? If we were at a particular place where there is just stones all around and suddenly we see gold over there, hey, where did this gold particle come from? It's a natural, logical question. Maybe there is some other place where there is gold. So, if the longing for living forever doesn't come from our externals, because there's nothing external that will trigger it, then it must come from our internals. That there must be something in our core that lasts forever. And that is a logical way to point to not just our spirituality, but the imperishable, the indestructible nature of our spirituality. So that there is a spiritual reality beyond the material. That is the first thing, that intelligence we need us to understand. So in one sense, we can say intelligence means to see that there is appearance and then there is substance. There are how things seem to be and how things actually are. So intelligence is the capacity to see beyond the appearance to substance. You may have heard this saying, all that glitters is not gold. So the idea is that intelligent people are able to see beyond what glitters. So now the material reality is what glitters. We see matter and it's not just visible, it's ultra visible. It is often the material temptations. We'll talk about these when we come to the level of the mind a bit more. But the idea is the capacity to see beyond matter to spirit, beyond what is temporary to what is lasting. So that is the first capacity of intelligence. What is real? What is real? Generally, we are all driven. We will talk about various desires, and a desire may be, oh, this person became so popular, this person won this award, I also want to win that award. Oh, this person is driving such a big car, I want to drive such a car. Oh, this person looks so attractive, I also want to. That person did plastic surgery, I want to do plastic surgery to look attractive. Whatever I want to do. So we see so many things and we desire those things. But what is real? Now, real, that means what lasts. So, what is going to last forever? So, what is real can have two definitions: what is existing and what is enduring. So, if we take it simply in terms of what is existing, then even we could say that a dream is real. Because in the dream state, we see certain things, and when we see those things, there are some physical effects of what we see also. If we feel a tiger is chasing us, we may wake up panting and sweating, alarmed and scared. That's how people have nightmares, they wake up alarmed. So, what is existing, we can call that as real, and that's true, but that is one level of reality. Satyam param dhimahi. The Bhagavatam says that there are many satya, but there is a param satya. So we are talking about what is real in terms of what is enduring. So what will last? That's the first function of the intelligence. And that's what the drushti, the buddhi gets. This is what is real. What is the acronym we are discussing? To rid ourselves of illusion. So R was what is real. I is, you remember, what is important. So now intelligence is about essentially selecting or shortlisting. Because in life there are so many things to do. And one of the characteristics of lack of intelligence, of sometimes some small thing happens and a person explodes. What's wrong with you? You say, what's wrong with you? You are only wrong. If somebody makes a small thing very big, then we say, have a sense of perspective. Don't lose your perspective. So intelligence helps us to see helps us to see in perspective. This is how Srila Prabhupada defines intelligence in the Buddhir Jnanam Asammoha 10.45 purports, that see in perspective. Now perspective, what does it mean? That we see things in terms of how they are. Say if we take a selfie, sometimes the person who takes a selfie of a large group, that person's face may come as very big. Because I don't like this, let us take a normal photo. So it's not in perspective at times. So perspective means we should be able to see things as they are. So the function of intelligence is to see what are the big things in our life and what are the small things in our life. And then what we can do is, once we have the intelligence, we can keep the big things big and we can keep the small things small. We can keep the small things small. So now, for that, our mind also has to be pacified and purified. But at least with our intelligence, we understand this is a big thing and that is a small thing. Say, some friend invites us to a party. And okay, this party, it's fun, we might go there for a party. But say, at that time, we have, in our office or in a school, college, we have an urgent project deadline. He'll say, if I have to submit the project in a few hours, I cannot go for a party now. We'll do it later. No, today's important party, come. Okay, it's important party, I'll forget the project. So now project is, your job is more important, isn't it? So, a sign of lack of intelligence is to make small things big and to let big things become small. So, lack of intelligence does not necessarily always make us blind. When you talk about eyes, without our eyes, we can't see. But without intelligence, it's not that we can't see, it's we see wrongly. And that is even more damaging. So, if there is no intelligence, it's not that there is no vision. There is not absence of vision, but there is distortion of vision. And distortion of vision can be very damaging. So for us, with our buddhi, we can calmly plan ourselves. So Krishna talks about this as buddhi, intelligence in the mode of goodness. In 18.30, he says that to be able to prioritize things, and he used various criteria by which we can decide what is the priority. So let's recite this verse. Pravrittim cha nivrittim cha
प्रवृत्तिं च निवृत्तिं च
karya karye bhaya bhaye
कार्याकार्ये भयाभये
bandham moksham cha ya vetti
बन्धं मोक्षं च या वेत्ति
buddhi sa partha satviki.
बुद्धि सपार्थ सात्विकी.
So satviki buddhi, that is intelligence which is well situated. What does it do? It helps us to see, okay, what inside me there are many tendencies, but some tendencies should be accepted, some tendencies should not be accepted. And when I talk about the mind, I talk about it. You know, we have impulses inside us. Impulses, we yell at someone when they displease us. Those impulses, you want to say no to those. But we also have instincts inside us. That there are natural inclinations, natural talents. So what is pravritti and what is nivritti? From inside what comes, and what should we say yes to, what should we not say yes to? What is a big thing, what is a small thing? That intelligence helps us. Similarly, karya karye. Okay, what actions are to be done? What is my karya doesn't refer to only to action, it refers to responsibility. What is my responsibility and what is not my responsibility? See, many times something may be our responsibility and we may not do it. And something might be another person's fault and we still try to obsess over it. So when to say yes and when to say no, when to hold on to responsibility and when to let go. So karya karye bhaya bhaye, that there are many things which are to be there. We actually have fear of things, but now some fears they protect us, some fears they suffocate us. Suppose somebody wants to learn public speaking and they're afraid. Then if they give into that fear, they will never learn public speaking. That fear will suffocate us. But somebody has they are rushing to go somewhere and they are about to cross the road and they suddenly feel fear because big truck is coming. And that fear is good. You need to step away from there. So that bhaya bhaye, what fears are to be accepted, what fears are to be transcended. In spite of the fear, you move forward. Bhaya bhaye bandham moksham chayavetti. That what will in future lead me to bondage and what will lead me to freedom. This understanding it. Now we may enjoy some things, but sometimes that enjoyment can actually lead us to entanglement. So these four things, these are indicative of buddhi, sapartha, satviki. Now these four things I will talk about more when I talk about contentment or nourishment of the soul. When that happens, so now intelligence does not act in isolation. Intelligence needs to act in combination. See, like, what do I mean by that? That say the Indian intelligence agencies come to know that Pakistan is planning some terrorist attack in Delhi. Now the intelligence will come to know about it. But after that, there are other agencies which have to act to prevent it, to protect ourselves, to counter it, whatever it is. So intelligence doesn't act in isolation. So for the intelligence to act effectively, there are other factors involved. And one of them is the soul. But let's quickly look at these four things. When intelligence is, it understands what are the big things and what are the small things. So essentially, this internal, should I say, when something comes out from inside me, some thought, some idea comes in, should I say yes or should I say no? So INT here is not intelligence, it is internal. So intelligence helps us to guide internal. Then, so internal, we could say thoughts that come in, should I say yes or no? So pravrittim cha nivrittim cha, karya karye bhaya bhaye. So external pressures come upon me. Pressures, come on, do this, come to this wedding, come to this party, do this, do this. So what is my duty, what is not my duty? When to say yes, when to say no. So that is also an important karya kari. Now there are fears that come inside us, bhaya bhaye. And is the fear healthy fear? So I should listen to it. and therefore I should deter myself from doing it, or is the fear an unhealthy fear? So, and lastly, mandam moksham cha yavetti. So when I go in for pleasures, so the pleasures that I indulge in, are they again healthy or unhealthy? Should I say yes to them or should I say no to them? It's not that we have to say no to all pleasures in life, but there are some pleasures which are entangling and we need to be able to say no to them. So now these aspects of intelligence, that what is the big thing? Pleasure I want. But is pleasure the most important thing? What is the cost of the pleasure? Sometimes the cost of the pleasure may be so much more that I may decide I don't want this pleasure now. So like that, intelligence helps us to see what are the big things and what are the small things. Now, in terms of one simple image, if you want to put it this way, that what intelligence helps us to do is, initially for us, the world is big and God is small. Even if he exists, maybe he doesn't exist, it's just God becomes irrelevant. When I was introduced to Bhakti, I started sharing about Bhakti with all my friends, relatives. So one of my uncles told me, God, I have a very good relationship with God. Really, I hadn't seen him go much to temples or read any spiritual books or even discuss any philosophical subjects. So I said, what do you mean good relationship with God? He says, mutual non-interference. He is happy there, I am happy here. So the idea is basically God is irrelevant. So now from there, the drushti that we get is that actually the world is small and God is big. So getting this drushti, now we don't want just the drushti of this, we want the sakshatkar of this. But initially, at least we get the drushti, that there is some reality bigger than this world. That what I see is not the complete picture. So this drushti is what the intelligence gives us. So that's the second part. That with drushti, with intelligence, the drushti that we get enables us to know what is important. What are the big things in my life? What are the small things in my life? Now at one level, God is the most important thing, God is the biggest thing in my life, and the world is a small thing. Now small does not mean false, and small does not mean that it should not be important. So intelligence helps us to prioritization. What things are how important. And without prioritization, see what happens is, if we are not planning our life, then somebody else is planning our life. And somebody else could be some external person, or it could be our own mind. And those plans will not be very good. So what will happen? We will spend a lot of time on small things and we will neglect big things. Not consciously, sometimes subconsciously we'll neglect those things. So intelligence is the parameter, okay. It's like the internal barometer, internal measure will say, hey, you're spending so much time on this. Is this really that important? Maybe this, you just have to push it forward now. So that's the second part. What is the acronym once again? Read. So what was D? Can you remember? Doable. What is doable? So intelligence doesn't just help us to understand, okay, what really exists. And among all the things that exist, what are important? But intelligence also helps us to make assessments about what is doable for us. And in general, what happens is that in whatever we do in our actions, when we are in Rajoguna, when we are Rajas, we become over ambitious. We start attempting things which are way beyond our capacity to do. So if somebody can lift, say, 10 kg weight, and they try to lift a 60 kg weight, then they will themselves become a 60 kg weight and somebody will tell how to lift on a stretcher. Isn't it? So what is beyond our capacity, we cannot lift it. So what is Rajas? In Rajas, we overestimate our capacity. We become over ambitious about doing things. In Tamas, we basically underestimate our capacities and we become under ambitious. Even things which we can do, we start thinking that I can't do it. So in Sattva, we are able to estimate accurately. We estimate and then we aspire. So we aspire for not too much, not too little, according to our capacity. See, in any area of life, when we want to change, when change has to happen, that change has to happen in a way that is doable for us. Say if somebody says, like here there's a staircase for going up to the terrace. Now in some stairs, the steps are quite small. Then even elderly people can also climb up the steps. Even children can go up. But some places the steps may be huge, especially if you go on a hill and there's a hilly path. There's no actual steps, but they're like you climb up on a boulder and you take one step and you pull yourself up by hands and go up. That's quite difficult. So for us, say we are at a particular level and we want to get to a particular level. Now this could be in terms of our self-discipline, morality, spirituality, whatever it is. So if I'm here, if I'm at a particular level and I want to get to a particular level. So how will we get to that level? We may try, one lack of intelligence is to think that I'll just take a high jump over here. Just one jump and I'll get there. So we think like that in the first generation. See what happens is in every tradition there are promises made. There are statements about exalted levels of spiritual achievement that are described. And they are important. But then there are practitioners who give us a more grounded vision of things. So in the first generation, many devotees, they believed that in a few days, Krishna consciousness will take over the world. Everybody will be Krishna conscious. And in a few days after that, we'll become pure devotees. And a few days after that, we'll go back to Godhead. So the idea was, there's a lot of unrealistic expectation. And what happened when that didn't work out, you try to go up at too fast a level, and instead of going up, we jump up, and then we don't just come down, we go further down. We go lower than where we were, because we become so disheartened. So, in general, when we are trying to move up, so now the other, this is certainly unhealthy. The other is, we think, okay, I'll never be able to move forward. This is just how I am. This is how I'll always be. And you think I can never change. We may even not retain the desire to change. And that would be very unhealthy. So what we need is, we need to create steps for ourselves. So, how can I move forward from where we are? Now this is where often the guidance of those who have gone on that path, and especially those who have gone similarly on that path, that can help us. So intelligence comes by understanding that I need to take incremental steps. So that is the verse we discussed today. Shanai Shanai Rupa, gradually, step by step. It is not by giant leaps. So it is, now sometimes the steps may be big for some people. Some people might be able to take giant steps. And they may be able to move forward much faster. And one possible reason for this is, maybe those people have already practiced some spirituality in their previous lives. And that's why their spiritual muscles are much stronger. Their intellectual convictions and realizations are much deeper. So, for some people, they may need to take baby steps. So, it may take them much longer to get to the eventual level. But that's okay. Krishna accepts everyone at whatever pace they come. Krishna says, Mama vartamanu vartante manushyaha partha sarvashaha. All people are on my path. So the idea is, I'll talk about this Krishna accommodating everyone more tomorrow. But the idea is that we need to have the intelligence to recognize, what is my capacity. So now, how do we develop that intelligence to understand our capacity? Well, there are two main factors in it. That one is experience and the other is experiment. Experience and experiment. So in one sense, experience is from the past. Okay, so if says Nirjala Ekadashi, and now can I fast on Ekadashi? Can I fast completely from water? What is my past experience? My past experience is that if 9 o'clock I don't get breakfast, I'll break things fast. Isn't it? I'll start breaking things. I'll get angry. Isn't it? So maybe I think maybe I cannot do it. So that's the experience. Right. So experience is for the past. Experiment is what we do in the present. Now, but how much of an experiment can we do? So now we don't want to be locked and defined by our past experience. That this is what I was able to do and that's what I'll forever be. But at the same time, we don't want to do an experiment that is radically different, that is radically higher than what was in the past. So, okay, in a way, I'll try to fast without water. If I can't, I'll take some water, I'll take some juices. But let me try to do it for a few hours and see how it works out. So in one sense, intelligence involves both of these things. We learn from our experience, but we also learn to experiment. So if we focus only on experience, then we will be locked into our past. But if we focus only on experiment, then we may be damaged by the present. Because we may experiment at a too dangerous level. Say suppose somebody has driven a bicycle. So now, okay, I know I have basic orientation sense. I'll be able to drive I think I can drive a bike also. Okay, a motorcycle I can drive. Okay, we will be able to drive. But if you want to do an experiment, don't go on a main road and try first time. Isn't it? Why? Because there, if a fast vehicle comes, it can be a fatality over there. So try on a less crowded road. And don't go very far away. Maybe have some people watching so that even if you fall or something, there's somebody to help us. Go slowly, don't go very fast. So in one sense, intelligence helps us to balance experience and experiment. So what is my experience? I learn from it. And how much can I experiment? I learn about it. I try it out various things. So in this way, we learn what is doable for us. And these three things, now with respect to spiritual growth, when we study scripture, through scripture we understand that there is a spiritual reality. Through scripture we understand that ultimately Krishna is in charge and we need to learn to see from Krishna's perspective what is important. What are the things that are enduring? What are the things that are lasting? And then if I am at a particular place in my life, that does not mean that, okay, I'm moving so slowly. Krishna still has a plan for my life. So in tomorrow's session, I'll talk more about how that spiritual connection at the level of the soul and perceiving Krishna more in our life can transform us, can empower us in a different way from our intelligence. So I'll summarize what we discussed. So today the topic was spiritual empowerment, and within that the first part was about what intelligence, how we are empowered intelligently. What happens to us is we get vision, and discuss three main parts. What was the acronym? It helps us to rid ourselves of illusion. So what is real? So now I discussed how that our longing for the eternal suggests that there has to be something beyond the temporary. Otherwise, in this temporary world, why would we at all have a longing for the eternal? So, in a temporary world, why do we long for the eternal? So that suggests that there is something inside us eternal. So intelligence helps us to see beyond the appearance, how things look, appearances. There is the material things. So we perceive beyond that through the intelligence to what is substance. So when we use the word real, we are using it here in the sense of not just what is existing, but what is enduring. So when we say something is an illusion, if we say a mirage, the mirage is not existing at all. So sometimes you also have to perceive that. But sometimes what may be existing, but it may be short-lived. So that also perceived. The second was, what is important. So one sign of intelligence is that we are able to understand what are the big things in our life and what are the small things. And then we want to keep the big things big and the small things small. Lack of intelligence doesn't lead to no vision, it leads to distorted vision. It's not that we don't see, we see wrongly, and that can be even more damaging. I discussed about how that, so this real was based on 2.16, important was based on 18.30, the Gita, and then I talked about what is important, 4 things within that, which I'll elaborate tomorrow. Internal thoughts or ideas that come inside us, external pressures that come upon us. Among those, should we say yes or should we say no? What is the big thing for me? Then there are my fears healthy or unhealthy? And are my desires for pleasures? Are the pleasures that I'm seeking? Which pleasures are healthy? Which pleasures are unhealthy? So, and the last part was, what is doable for us? This is 6.25, what we discussed in the starting was that for us we need to understand that now with respect to what is a big thing, ultimately it is Krishna who is the big thing. Initially the world is very big and Krishna is very small for us, but eventually Krishna will become bigger and the world will become smaller for us. This is Krishna. Now doable refers to we tend to overestimate in Rajas or we underestimate in Tamas. We want to avoid both of those, and we need to, what is my capacity? Okay, that is this direction I want to go, but how do I go there? And for this, so that means we, rather than jumping rapidly, we try to create accessible steps for us to go there. And to create this, is a combination of, we learn from our experience from the past, and we learn by experimenting in the present. So in this way, each one of us, as we study the Bhagavad-Gita and practice spirituality, we'll find our intelligence will become more and more sharpened. And we'll learn to look for what is real, what is important, and what is doable. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for the wonderful session. Prabhuji, like you mentioned, the Bhagavad-Gita helps us to nourish our intelligence. So how does specifically all the scriptures, like we say by scriptures reading our intelligence is nourished. So how 3 aspects are nourished by reading the scriptures, all the 3 aspects?
So by studying the Shastra, how are these 3 nourished? I won't say it's only studying the Shastra. Spirituality cannot be reduced to one activity, neither to studying scripture, nor to chanting, nor to a particular form of service. Spirituality ultimately is about developing a relationship with the ultimate spiritual reality, Krishna. So having said that, in scripture there is philosophy, and the philosophy, when we understand it, then we understand that okay, the world is temporary. Siddhanta balya chitte nakare alas yahaite Krishna lagin sudruda manas. So in scripture there are mainly 2 main things. There is the philosophy and there is the pastimes. So the philosophy gives us rigorous intellectual analysis, and that helps us to learn certain things. Now the stories illustrate those things. So what happens is, in general, in education, any kind of education, there is what is called as a ladder of abstraction. Ladder of abstraction means what? That when we explain things, you have heard the word abstract? Abstract means which is a little more conceptual. So generally there are concepts at the top of the ladder, and there are details or specifics at the bottom of the ladder. So what happens is that specifics, they in one sense they have a human interest element. See, if I tell you the story of somebody I met in America, or something happened in somebody's life, like in movies, people watch movies, why? They're stories. So specifics, they catch attention. In general, the more specific we tell something, that catches attention. But specific, okay, that thing happened to that person, Okay, well, how does it matter to me? It is concepts which actually give learning. Okay, from what happened in this person's life, like this person started taking alcohol just because of social pressure. Friends said, let's start drinking. Started drinking, but those same friends who told him to start drinking, when that person became an alcoholic, nobody came to support him. And only those friends who had told him don't drink initially, they actually came to support him. So then, now which kind of people should we take seriously? The people who get us into a bad habit and then abandon us when we get trapped by the bad habit, or the people who caution us about the bad habit? So now this, telling the story, is the specific. That is the interest. It catches interest. But in one sense, the concepts are what nourish the intelligence. So specifics catch interest and concepts nourish the intelligence. So in scripture, there is Leela. Leela is specifics. Now this Bhakta did this and that happened at that time. This was the demon who attacked. And that was the curse, which that was the boon that the demon had. That's why he could not be countered. So all that is interesting. But what happens is, for people who are a little more analytical intelligent, they say, what, these are old-fashioned stories, maybe they're mythological. And they feel what they're mythological, they're not logical. What is the point of it all? So for such people, for people who are already in the tradition, they love the stories, they hear the stories, and they relish the stories. That's wonderful. But for us, the intelligent tattva is where we learn some lessons. So in general, education needs to constantly be going up and down the ladder of abstraction. So come down to catch interest, go up to impart intelligence. And different speakers, they based on their own tendencies, they may go more towards the top of the ladder of abstraction, or they may be at the bottom of the ladder of abstraction. So I was telling this concept to one devotee in a class in America, and a devotee told me, your classes are 90% at the top of the ladder. So they're mostly concepts. So then I said, yeah, that makes sense. I should add some more examples, more stories. And some devotees are pure kathakas. Now those who are already attracted to Krishna, they will love the katha. And those who have no attraction, they will say, what is going on? Why should I hear this story? What does it matter to my life? So now each speaker will find the balance according to their own nature. But we also need to have that our individual balance. So if you see, the Gita is mostly at the level of concepts. The Bhagavatam has a decent balance, has a great balance, not a decent, a great balance. We say Bhagavatam is like 60-70% Leela, and maybe 70-75% Leela, and 25% Tattva. There is Sankhya of the third canto, there is Uddhav Gita, some sections which are philosophical, but mostly it's stories. Now if you go to the Puranas, other Puranas, Bhagavatam is slightly distinctive. The other Puranas, they are almost 80-90% Leela. The Mahabharata, Ramayana, there are discussions within them, but they are mostly stories. The discussions happen in between. So basically, now different people learn differently. So sometimes some people learn through the philosophical analysis, some people learn through the stories. So now each one of us has to find out what helps our intelligence to learn the best, what combination helps us the best. Okay? Thank you.
Online summary.
You want to turn on the mic or how do you want to read it out?
Intelligence discriminate between small and big, but most of time two or more appears to be equally important.
Yes. So we may want to differentiate between small and big things, but sometimes two things appear to be equally important. Yes, that's when the intelligence becomes important. So that's why while intelligence is important, it's also I have these articles I write on Bhagavad-Gita, gitadaily.com. So I wrote on that in 2 points, and when Arjuna surrenders to Krishna. So be intelligent. So the title of that article was "Be intelligent enough to know when the intelligence is not enough." Be intelligent enough to know when the intelligence is not enough. That sometimes it is just that because our own intelligence is finite and limited, we will not be able to decide. So, say I have two subjects to study. It sometimes happens that we have two authorities and both of them tell us to do something, and they both of them want it urgently. Now, what do we do at that? So then we have to, ideally speaking, have a third authority who's above those two authorities, and we talk with them. Which one should I do, which one should I not do? That was actually the confusion of Arjuna at the start of the Gita. That he had his Kula Dharma and he has his Kshatriya Dharma. So both of them were Dharma for Arjuna. So his Kula Dharma and his Kshatriya Dharma. So he came up to do his Kshatriya Dharma. Kshatriya Dharma told him, you are a warrior, you have to fight. Whoever is against you, you should fight. But then he had his Kula Dharma. They are all members of my dynasty. They are my people. Mamaka. They are, like Duryodhan uses that word, so Dhritarashtra uses that word in the beginning of the Gita to refer to his people as differentiated with the Pandavas. But later on, Arjuna uses the same word. He says that they are my people. And how can I fight against them? So, Swajanam hi katham hatva sukhina syama madhava. So, now Dhritarashtra's sense of who are my people is very small. Arjuna's sense is broad, that they are also my Swajana. So, now what happens? Dhritarashtra has no sense of Kula Dharma over there. For him, Mamaka does not cause any tension. But for Arjuna, when he takes Swajana, then he has a tension. So that's when he needs to turn towards Krishna. So either we pray to Krishna for guidance, and then we look at somebody who is more experienced, some spiritual guides, spiritual masters, people who are more experienced in that field. And with their consultation, we decide, okay, both are important, but which can I pay attention to right now? Or which do I need to pay attention to right now? Okay.
One more question.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you for the wonderful class. I request, can you please elaborate on real, existing and enduring topic which you described?
Okay. So when I said what is real, how do we understand what is real? Does it refer to? So I said the word real can be understood in different ways. Now, if say like in the Maya Sabha, when Duryodhan was there, he saw water and there was no water over there. He lifted his clothes and he went and there was no water. And he thought there's no water and there's water and he slipped and fell. So at one level, what is not existing? So like if you put a stick in the beaker of water, the stick appears bent, that's refraction. So at one level, intelligence helps us to see what is actually existing. So that is also one level of intelligence. And in one sense, this is functional intelligence. If you don't have this intelligence, we will not be able to survive in life also. Because we say seeing is believing, but the seeing is believing can lead to we end up not living only. Because somebody has a cataract and they see tutu everywhere. And they go and the enemy, they think they're fighting with someone, the enemy is here and they try to attack, and the enemy is actually, the enemy stabs them and they die. So what is actually existing, we need to perceive that properly. So that is also a level of intelligence. But that is functional day-to-day intelligence we need. But then what is enduring? That is philosophical intelligence. So that's why intelligence is not the monopoly of spiritualists. So at a function, there is scientific intelligence, there's medical intelligence, there's musical intelligence. So there are different kinds of intelligences where people may be able to, okay, this music is good. Maybe you need to tone this down. You need to increase this. The orchestra we are doing, the merging that we are doing, let's add this, remove this. So what is existing and what should be existing, what should not be existing. That understanding, that is also intelligence. So that's why when we understand that Satya exists at a level of hierarchy. There are many truths, but then there is one Param Satya. So like for a child, toys are important. Now, that's the truth. Now, parent knows that the child should not be playing with toys throughout the rest of the life. But right now, the toys are important. It's not that, oh, this is this is not going to be enduring, so the parent will deliberately break the toy of the child. No, that would be cool. So what is existing is also important, and understanding what is, recognizing what is existing is a sign of intelligence that is required for day-to-day functioning in life. But simply understanding what is existing will not help us to grow spiritually. Because we'll caught in the material world, we may not thrive or survive even materially if we lack intelligence. But even with intelligence, if we are not philosophically guided, then at the end we will die. Like say the principle of Darwinian evolution is survival of the fittest. So each one of us needs to become fit enough to survive. But then at the end it is even the fittest don't survive. Ultimately everyone dies. So at once there's intelligence to survive, that is survival of the fittest. So to survive I need to become fit. But then even the fittest don't survive. Understanding that and then looking at the spiritual level of reality or exploring the spiritual level of reality, understanding that is also intelligence. Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Comment is there.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. We talk about balance in Sattva Guna, but many times we hear that as such there is no balance in life. Ups and downs are integral to it. Thanks for Gita prayer book which I received from you in Mayapur. Arjun Charan.
Thank you, Arjun. So, is it that there is no balance in life because of the ups and downs? Well, yes. You could say there is balance in imbalance. What I mean is that if a boat is there in a ship, or a boat or ship is there in the ocean, then it's always going to go up and down. That is unavoidable. So it is always going to go up and down. And a person who is traveling in a boat or a ship for the first time, they may get some seasickness. And over a period of time, they get habituated to it. So that constant up and down is unavoidable. But there are monster waves that come up. And those monster waves, they can destroy, they can overturn the ship, they can drown a person completely. So when we are navigating a ship, at one level we need to accept that the waves are unstable, waves are unavoidable, and some level of up and down is going to be there. But navigation doesn't mean just accepting that ups and downs are unavoidable. It also means avoiding those which are huge ups and downs. That's why when you are driving a car, one of the things is how good a car driver you are is how much jerks you have. That how much jerks and jolts you have. That when you start off from a signal, boom, then everybody gets shaken. And then you see a signal and ahead, and then slowly we should start slowing down. But otherwise, just keep moving ahead, bang! And then what happens is that in a car, sometimes you'll be moving, sometimes you'll be stopping. But balance would mean not that we are always moving or always stopping. Balance would mean that when we move from moving to stopping or stopping to moving, the transitions are as smooth as is possible. So like that's why balance in imbalance. That means that we anticipate that there is some level of imbalance that is unavoidable and we accept that. But we also anticipate when things are going to be wildly unbalanced and we prepare for that. So now, for example, we may have a structure for our life. Okay, in the morning I do this, in the afternoon I do this, in the evening I do this. Now suppose there is going to be some big event in our family. Maybe there's a wedding or there's a newborn baby in our family. So then at that time we need to anticipate, and maybe if we have a project with a huge deadline or something, we need to be able to complete that project before that event happens. Or we need to plan so that we can delegate the project to someone else. So now if we don't plan that, and when we have a big family event, at that time we have a huge project deadline also, then that would be imbalance that was avoidable. Now we may have an urgent project deadline, and sometime suddenly somebody in the family gets a heart attack. Now that is unpredictable. Then we may have to see what to do at that time. So some imbalance is unavoidable. But just because some imbalance is unavoidable doesn't mean that we can have we cannot prepare for it. So ideally speaking, what should happen is that the imbalance, or rather the balance that we seek, it can be a graded approach. Graded approach is that there is an aspirational level of balance. So aspirational level of balance, say, with respect to spiritual life would be every morning I want to complete my sadhana, and then I want to do this and I want to do this. Now that is ideal now. Then a non-negotiable level of balance would be that okay, even if I can't do my sadhana in the morning, sometime during the day I need to complete it. So I cannot say that I'm so busy throughout the day that I cannot do any sadhana at all. So so in that sense, we can have a range within which we balance. So this range, a graded approach rather than a rigid approach. Rigid approach is that this is the state of balance, yes and no. So we don't have a rigid approach, we have a more graded approach to balance. Okay.
Thank you.
So thank you very much for your participation. Srimad Bhagavad-Gita ki
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai. Gaura.